This is a demonstration of the Holmes Electric Time Lock Company model number 2 time lock dating from about 1884. This time lock contained some developments from the Newberry patent for anti-dynamite devices, which I will get to a little bit later in this film. But what I want to do is just simply do a brief demonstration of how the lock works. Right now the lock is fully unwound, and I will explain later why I need to do this demonstration while it's unwound, because there is a feature that prevents the lock from operating properly if it is only partially wound. So right now the lock is set on guard because this is nighttime, and this is set for about 8 p.m. It is set to go off guard at about 9 o'clock here in the morning. So if one rotates the dial, and I can do that by merely, instead of putting my hand on the dial and obstructing the view, I can move this secondary gear here. You will then see this now being pulled downward, this lever, and at the same time this bolt up here is being drawn toward the left, and it is now on guard. Now if you go a little bit further, you now are about ready to go to where it is 6 o'clock at night, or not 6 o'clock, excuse me, about 3 o'clock, and it is now on guard. Furthermore, this did have a feature for skipping days for, say, holidays or weekends, and that was accomplished by these two knobs here. If you pulled this knob downward like so, it would then skip a day, and we'll demonstrate that now. You see now it has not gone off guard. And now it has gone off guard. And of course now on guard. There was also a feature to allow the operator to automatically put this on guard at any time, so that when the door was closed, it then would automatically put the safe into the on guard position. And that was done through this little item here. So when this is pushed forward, it's now on guard. And I will now demonstrate why this little piece is here, because it actually works with the door closed. So now I will close the door and demonstrate that this can be put on guard through this little piece here, and now it is on guard. That way you can have the security of having this door locked, and the operator, without being able to access the interior of the lock, can simply put it on guard at any time. Now, part of the Model 2's design was Newberry's anti-dynamite devices, and what he did was he said, look, if you put a charge of dynamite in just such a way that you would cause these movements here to be disrupted, then it is possible if even just one, because here in this case, redundancy works against you. If you have a charge of dynamite that causes this balance wheel to dislodge and cause a runaway in the movement, then this wheel will suddenly start moving very, very quickly and thus disarm the lock. So what he devised was this dial here has a small spring in it, which, and this is the reason why this pointer is so far away from the dial, if there was a dynamite blast and it caused this to be disabled and cause a runaway, at the same time this dial would be thrown forward, like so, and would then be disconnected completely. And therefore, the runaway would not cause the dial to move at all. The dial is now reset. I just want to make a comment about this whole anti-dynamite technology. In my opinion, if somebody had a charge that was enough to cause a disruption, the odds are probably 99 out of 100 that it would cause the movement to jam, and therefore you would not result in a runaway. But if the charge was just enough to cause this to dislodge in such a way as to cause a runaway, the odds of it also at the same time having just the right force and just the right angular momentum to throw this dial outward is, in my case, in that case, the odds of winning a fairly good-sized lottery. This was probably more or less a marketing tool in order to address the concerns of the bankers because of the nitroglycerin that had come into use at the time for trying to force safes open. One of the weaknesses in the design of this movement is the fact that when you wind it up, you really do not know how far it has been wound. So there was a device built in here, a little cam, which has a mark on it here which shows you, okay, I'm fully unwound. But if you just were to, say, wind both of these movements up for, let's say, 5 hours, and it were to go on guard, and then it were to run down in 5 hours when it was supposed to be on guard for, say, 8 or 9 or 10 or 12, well, then you have a lockout. So what we have here is a cam that prevents this from being able to be put on guard unless this right-hand movement is fully wound. It does not apply to the left-hand movement. So theoretically, you could wind up only the right-hand movement fully and put it on guard and have only one movement, which is not a good idea, protecting the safe. So I have now just wound it up a little bit, maybe a half a day's worth. And if you look closely, you can see this cam has moved just a little bit counterclockwise. And so if we try to put it on guard, which it should do here again with this pointer being set at 3, you will see that it does not allow this to push this boltwork all the way out to the right, thus putting it on guard. And just to dramatize this, again, we go all the way around, and this would be putting it off guard, nope, not going on guard. So that is a safety to keep this lock from being able to go on guard without a sufficient amount of time on the on this movement on the right hand side. And basically you have to wind this to the full extent for it not to engage this safety device.